This is my
All right.
second formal debate. This is probably going to be my last because these things are incredibly boring to me, honestly. And I was drunk when I accepted this debate from you. I do vaguely remember accepting it from you, but I wasn't sure if I was like debating you or if you were saying that you had somebody you wanted me to debate. I've done one before. I was with the Bought by Blood, and they're just not very entertaining for me. It's not very fun. But I accepted it, so I'm here. I am looking forward to debating with you. But my opening statement is just very simply: I believe that the God character of the Bible is evil, just based on his behavior in the Bible. I think that he is a bad guy. I think you probably see him as the hero in the book, and I see him as the villain. And just simply based on Scripture, there's a lot of things that I have issues with the Christian God. I believe he's evil, and that's basically my position. And so I don't have 15 minutes worth of stuff to say. I'm sorry.
All right. So the premise of this debate, is the Christian God evil, makes this a very easy debate for me. My opponent has a large task. My opponent must prove that the God of the Bible is evil. In order to call God evil, you must be using a standard by which you are measuring God against. What is the nature of this standard, and why ought we use this standard? If my opponent cannot provide an objective standard with an objectively valid reason to use such a standard, he cannot call God evil. All he can do is say that he doesn't like God, and the debate would be over there. So, is it good, evil, or morally neutral to own an animal?
I would say it's not good or bad. It depends in what context that you're owning the animal. If you're owning the animal, to me, it's wrong to own an animal just simply to use it for breeding, just to use it as essentially as a sex object for other dogs to pump puppies out for you to sell, and not worry about where the puppies are going to, what homes they're going to. That's wrong to me. But I don't see a problem with owning a pet as a loving companion. And obviously, you don't want the pet, if you leave the gate open and the pet runs away, that's sad. You don't want that to happen. But so in a way, you are forcing the pet to stay with you. But I think that if you're kind enough to
good.
Go ahead.
Would you say it's morally good to provide for the biological and psychological needs of the animal you own?
Is it morally good to provide for the biological and psychological needs of the animal? Yes, I would not want to neglect the animal.
Right, so it would be morally evil to neglect providing the biological and psychological needs of the animal.
Yeah, I think that would be wrong, yeah.
Okay. And true or false, according to science and biology, humans are animals.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, and if humans are animals, and it's okay to own animals, and it's morally good to provide for the biological and psychological needs, and neglecting them would be morally evil, does it logically follow that it's okay to own humans in the same capacity?
Well, if you're going to make slaves of them.
Right, so as long as you provide for the biological and psychological needs and treat them just as you would treat the animal that you own, it would be okay.
Yeah, but making a slave of someone is not good for them biologically. Well, that could be bad for their mental health.
Okay. Would you provide for the biological and psychological needs of an animal you own?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So as long as someone provides for the biological and psychological needs of the person, then it would be okay to own them.
Yeah, if they told the person you're free to go whenever you want to, that would be providing psychological. That would be providing for them psychologically. If you tell a person you are not free to go, I will own you forever, and I will own your children forever, that is not good for them psychologically.
But do you give your animals the same choice?
Well, I can't speak to my animals.
Right, but you restrict their freedom and their movement, right?
Yeah, my fence is closed in.
Right. So it would be okay to restrict the freedom and movement of a human in the same way.
I guess I would argue that my dog was just a puppy with his eyes still closed when I got him. So all he knows is his backyard and my house. He doesn't know that there is anywhere else to go. So he thinks there is nowhere else to go. So I don't think that he thinks that he has this desire to leave or be free as a human would want to leave or be free.
Right. So as long as you took a baby and owned them and brought them up, as long as they only knew your care, then it would be okay to restrict their freedom and movement.
That's impossible. Though eventually, the baby is going to grow and learn that there is more than just this where I'm being contained to. Unless you're saying like,
if the baby grows and has some mental disorder that doesn't allow them to do that, then it would be okay.
I wouldn't say that you're owning the person. That's just like, that's your child, and of course you're not going to let the like mentally challenged person just walk out the front door and into the street.
Okay, I'm gonna move on here. If a religious person doesn't like that you don't believe in God and they assault you, what should happen to them?
If somebody assaults you, you should whatever the law is should happen to you.
Okay, so is it true that when they are arrested and sentenced to jail, they will be restricted in movement and freedom?
Yes, for the crime they've committed, yeah.
If they try to escape jail or refuse to follow commands, such as returning to their cell, is it permissible to use non-lethal force to make them comply?
I don't know what like, I guess every jail would have different protocols, but if the person has escaped their jail and is threatening other officers or threatening other people, then if you have to go hands-on with them, then yeah, sure.
Okay. And are prisoners under the care and control of the state?
I don't know, if they're responsible. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they're responsible for the care of the inmate. Yeah.
Does the jail economically benefit from the possession of prisoners?
I guess some do. Yeah, some of them are privately owned, aren't they?
Yeah. So some of them would be privately owned. Some of them actually do forced labor, and then others would be voluntary labor at extremely low prices. But even if you take all of that away, does it make sense, considering that the guards and administration personnel are paid and would otherwise burden the economy by needing a job? This would also be an economic benefit?
Say that again?
Considering that guards and administration personnel are paid and would otherwise burden the economy, wouldn't this also be an economic benefit?
Sure.
By giving them a job. Okay. Considering all of the things we just discussed, does it logically follow that prisoners are under a form of slavery?
I don't think so, because they have committed a crime. I wouldn't say it's the same as the biblical slavery mentioned in Leviticus, because those people haven't committed a crime. The children haven't committed a crime.
It's a form of slavery, right?
No, I don't think so, because there's all kinds of different forms of slavery.
Right. So wouldn't that be a form of slavery? I'm not saying it's identical.
I don't think so, because I wouldn't necessarily call that slavery.
So just to confirm, you're saying that restricting someone's freedom, controlling their movement by threat of violence and punishment, while economically benefiting from this is not a form of slavery.
Yeah, because they're not innocent. They've committed a crime.
Right. So it's slavery as a punishment for crime, as the 13th Amendment says, right?
I wouldn't call that slavery. I don't know what I would call it. I disagree with a lot of the prison systems. I think it should be more focused on, rehabilitation. But yeah, I wouldn't. So
I'm gonna move on here.
Okay.
All right. So, would you agree with the Oxford Dictionary definition of evil as something or someone who is profoundly wicked and immoral?
Sure.
Okay. How do you know what is immoral?
I just go, like me personally. I use my own empathy and my own the realization of my consequences to my actions. So I don't want to hurt anybody because I know it hurts. So I have I guess I would say it's just natural, caring, empathy, feelings that I have towards other human beings. I guess that's what I would say.
So now if we took an example like Schmortion, where we may disagree on that. I don't know your particular view, but let's say I would be pro-life and you would be pro-choice. I'm not sure if you are. How do we know who is right and who is wrong?
I don't think there has to be somebody right or wrong. You can't prove that it's always wrong or always right.
Okay. So if morality is subjective, then does it logically imply that it's impossible to determine whether one person's view of morality is more correct than another's?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think one person is more correct than the other. Like, for instance, I think I'm safe in saying that we both think that grape is wrong, but you can't prove that it's objectively wrong.
Okay. Now, does it logically follow that if there is no way to determine if something is immoral, then we cannot determine if something is evil?
Say that again?
Does it logically follow then, if there's no way to determine if someone's view on morality is more immoral than another, we cannot determine if something is evil?
Objectively, no.
Okay. If there is no way to determine that if something is evil, how can you say that God is evil?
God is evil to me. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that God is. I'm not saying that God is evil to everyone. Obviously not. God is not evil to everyone, but God is evil to me. It's my opinion.
Okay. Is mathematics objective in nature?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. If I gave you an algebraic problem and your answer to that problem is different than mine, how do we know what the true answer is?
Well, we can find the truth because that is objective, right?
Right. So there's a standard that we can measure our answer against.
Like 2 plus 2 would always be 4, whether we're here or not. Whoa, I don't know what just happened. It says the live will end.
We need to restart?
No, wait. It's just asking me to prove I'm not a robot. It did this yesterday. I've never seen this before.
So I'm just going to pause the time real quick. There's only about 45 seconds.
Okay, we're good. I just had to like swipe a puzzle piece over.
So now, so there's a standard that which we could measure our answer against to find the true answer. So what's the best tasting food in the world?
I like steak. Sorry, Mike.
Okay. I like cookie batter ice cream. I think that's the best tasting food in the world. How do we know what the true answer is?
Well, this isn't really a moral issue, though.
Right. But is there a true answer?
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay. If morality is subjective in a similar sense to the best tasting food in the world, and I believe that schmishmortion is bad, and you should not be permitted, but you think it's good or permissible, how do we know what the true answer is? You already answered that. You said there isn't, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can prove either way. I don't think you can prove that it's good or bad.
So is it true that God is evil?
To me, yeah.
So if I said that 2 plus 2 equals 5, to me, would that be true or false?
I would say you're wrong, yeah.
Well, you can't if I say to me. Then it would be true.
Yeah, you're right, but to me, you're wrong.
All right, but there is a true or false answer in that situation. My time.
Yeah, and I think I'm true. I think I'm right, and you think you are.
I won't go any more to respect the time boundaries. You're next. 10 more minutes of cross-examination.
Yeah, so, like, I guess I'll, like, I don't know. I don't really have, like, a whole script of things to read from.
Right.
Yeah, like, to me, like, I think that morality is subjective. God is evil. I mean, like, all the scriptures I'm sure you've heard me reference, God, God, and I never argued that God commanded slavery. I think I've always argued that God allowed it. He gave sanctioned it. He gave very specific rules and instructions to the Israelites on how to practice it. But I agreed. God never commands it. But he does command. He does command genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Amalekites and other groups of people. And commanding his soldiers to capture young virgin girls is one of the biggest issues I have. And all of that stuff is evil. And I don't think an all-loving, all-good God would make those commands. He would not command that. And I don't see how you could hold the position that is a good and righteous thing.
Yeah, I mean, if morality is objective and God is the arbiter of that morality, then whatever he commands would be consistent with his nature and would be good. And just because we may not see it as good doesn't mean it isn't. But if morality is subjective, then you can't say that it is true that what God has done should not have been done or is not evil. Is evil. All you can say is that you don't like it. Just like you don't think that, or I don't know if you don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's my opinion. I agree with you. It's my opinion. Like you said you were pro-life. So, like, is it always wrong to unalive a baby?
Yes, but that's based on the morality of God.
So it's not
nature, which is uncreated.
It's not wrong if God does it, right? So it's not always wrong.
So the unjustified unaliving. And there's a difference between, like, for example, if we're on the street and you're speeding, doing something wrong, and I put fake lights on and try to pull you over, you're not obliged to pull over because I don't have the authority to do that. In the same way, I don't have the authority to carry out God's judgment willy-nilly and be vengeful just because I feel like I can do that. There is a way in which he allows humans to judge other humans, and it's through a government.
Can you give me an example of a justified unaliving of a baby?
In a hypothetical thought experiment, sure. But as for God doing it, the flood.
So it's not always wrong, right? You because earlier you said it was always wrong to unalive a baby.
Right. So I misspoke. The unjustified unaliving, which would be schmurder, which is like we make the same distinctions with self-defense, for example.
Okay. Is it always so even if God commands a person to unalive a baby, is that person wrong, or is that okay?
If God commands someone to do something, the command is right. And if the person follows through on that command, the command is right. Now, if you think you're hearing voices in your head to go do something, that would fall back onto how God has spoken to us. He said God has finally spoken to us through his Son. He does not speak to us like he spoke through prophets in the Old Testament. And there were tests for true prophets in the Old Testament to know that if they were speaking for God or not.
So you would always follow a command from God because it is good and righteous?
Correct. And God would not command something apart that goes directly against his nature.
Well, how do you know God? So if God were, you're saying God, it's impossible for God to reveal himself to you in a way that you were absolutely certain it was him. And you're saying that God would never command you to unalive a baby?
I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm saying that he said he would not. That he has finally spoken through his Son.
So it is possible that God could
speak to us. If God raises a prophet, he would show us that it is a prophet, just in the same way that in the Old Testament he showed that they were a prophet. And it wasn't just through signs and wonders. It was also that if they said that something came from the Lord and it did not happen, you were to kill that prophet.
So if God were to reveal himself to you in a way that you were absolutely certain it was him, and he commanded you to unalive a baby, what would you do?
Sure, I would follow any command of God if that were the case. But we know that if God were to do that, there would be a justifiable reason for it. So it's
when you say any command, you mean literally any command? Yes,
but now if you were to think that God said, come down and do what the mustache man did, there would have to be a justifiable reason for it that God was commanding for it to be good. In the sense of it would flow with his nature.
Yeah, and God would have a justified reason in your worldview, right?
Yes, if he commanded it, there would be a justified reason for it.
So you would follow every command, like literally every command, like even if God commanded you to go to your neighbor's home and essay their child.
Right. Now, there's absolutely no example that you could provide of that. That's just a hypothetical.
Well, yeah, okay, well, how about if God commanded you to go to your neighbor's house and kidnap their young virgin daughter?
Right, so that would go directly against God's commands, and
but God
we are not a theocracy. So when God commanded other nations to go to war with other nations, that was on a different level. God never commanded a person within a nation to do something like that.
Well, God has commanded people to go and capture virgin girls before. So, like I don't think you can really sit there.
Nation level.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, if God
not in a theocracy, there's no way to determine that God would say that to a nation.
Okay.
As
I see what you're saying.
As a theocracy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like in Numbers 31, 17 through 18, God didn't just tell some random person to go and kidnap a virgin girl. It was it was a command to an army. I understand that.
You have.
Okay. Yeah. That just I'm still kind of like I don't know. I'm really kind of. I was hoping you wouldn't answer those questions that way because I didn't look at you that way. But like when you say any command, like you can just look at things in the Bible, like Leviticus 20:13. I don't know if you know that verse off the top of your head, but is that a good and righteous command from God, and is that a command that you would follow?
I don't know it off the top of my head. Leviticus 20 verse 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it within the context of a theocracy, so I wouldn't take that into my own hands and just go unalive people who do that. So
you would if God commanded you to, though.
Not within the context of So when you say a hypothetical, sure, but that's not how God has operated in the past, and so it would be unusual for him to operate like that now. Like that would, if God told me, yeah, if he revealed himself to me, obviously, or whatever, through a way that I would know it's him, and he said, go start a theocracy and revolt, sure, but considering he didn't do that when he came down to earth, it would be very unusual for him to come and do that. In a hypothetical, sure, but when you, if we were to start a Christian theocracy and say these are the rules, then those would be the rules.
Okay. So
I won't ask you because this is your time to ask questions.
No, you can ask. I don't mind.
All right. I'm not going to let you do it in my time, so I just wanted to be fair.
Okay, that's fine.
But,
I don't really like the whole like rules thing. I like being able to just talk, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I just thought that's what we were doing. But if we had so are you obligated to follow the laws of the country that you're born in?
When you say obligated, do you mean like do I have a choice to not follow the laws? Because I do have a choice to disobey the law,
right?
With like, certain repercussions.
So if there are certain people who decided that they were above the law, like the guy who just passed away, O.J. Simpson, right? He most likely committed the crime that he was found not guilty of. He thought he was above the law in a sense because he went and he did things that he was not allowed to do within the law.
Well, I would argue that
obligated to obey the law.
I would argue that he wouldn't necessarily think, you know what, I'm above the law, I'm going to do this. I honestly believe that what happened there was a crime of passion. I don't think there was any thinking involved.
Maybe it was a bad example.
Yeah, I don't think that he was like, I'm going to do this and get away with this, because clearly whatever happened there was a thing of rage and no rationality, no thinking.
So my whole point is that even if you're born into a society, you don't sign a contract, right? A societal contract. You're just born into it. So if you were born into a Christian theocracy, you would be obligated to follow those laws.
If I didn't follow the laws, I would probably be stoned to death.
Right, in the same way that if you don't follow America's laws, there are consequences.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. That's the end of your time. I'm going to go back to mine, and then we'll go into the closing statements, and then we can take audience questions if you want. Sure. All right, let me just restart my time.
Oof.
All right. So since morality is subjective, that means there are no moral facts, right?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I was reading a comment.
Since morality is subjective, that means there are no moral facts, right?
No moral facts. Yeah, I don't think you can prove anything to be morally good or morally bad. Yeah.
Okay. And if there are right, and if there are no moral facts, then that means there are no normative moral facts, right?
I don't know what you mean by
fact
that.
Is something normative means that you should or should not do something.
Okay.
So if there's no moral facts, that means that there are no normative moral facts, right?
I think there are things that you should do and should not do. Yeah.
But in a subjective sense, not in a factual sense, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't think you can prove that someone should. Oh.
Right. So the last question was, if there are no moral facts, then that means there are no normative moral facts. You said right. So when you say something is evil, are you implying that it should not be done?
Yes.
Okay. When you call God evil, are you saying that he is evil because he did things he shouldn't have done?
To me, yeah.
Right. And then how can you call God evil if there are no normative moral facts?
Because it's my opinion.
Okay. So if I believe God is good and you believe God is evil, is there a way to determine who is right and who is wrong?
No, I don't think there is a way to prove anything morally good or morally bad.
Right. So is it true that God is evil?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
to me.
I'm not asking if it's true to you, but is it factually true that God is evil?
I cannot prove that God is objectively, factually evil.
Okay. If morality is subjective, does that mean what we consider moral progress, like the abolition of American slavery, is just about changing preferences and not about getting closer to an objective truth?
I don't know how to answer that. I really don't know how to answer
Okay.
that. I would say that
So-
it's about preferences, I would say, I guess, because that's what I believe morality is.
So if it's just about preferences, is it true that we can't say that our morality now is better than it was, but rather it's just different?
I could say that I think it is, but I can't prove that it is to anybody else.
So based on your subjective opinion, it's better. But
Right.
but there's no standard that we can measure it against to say it is better
Yeah, I would
outside
agree.
of yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Does the Bible say that God is created or uncreated?
I honestly don't know, but I would guess that the Bible says that God is uncreated.
Okay. And does the Bible say that God does not change?
I don't know if the Bible actually says it. I don't know.
Okay.
But to me, I would say that most Christians would say, yeah, God never changes.
Okay. So instead of asking you those questions, if God is uncreated, does not change, nor lie, can he create objectively true morals that are based on his objective nature and character?
If God exists, then yeah, he could do that.
Okay. All right. Do you agree that the primary goal of moral actions should be to maximize overall happiness or well-being?
Yeah, I think for the human's well-being, yeah.
Okay. Now imagine you're a doctor. Would you agree that saving as many lives as possible is your primary ethical duty?
Sure.
Okay. As a doctor, you have 5 patients in critical condition. They need organs transplanted in the next 30 minutes or they will die, but you don't have any available organs to use for them. There just so happens to be a person in the waiting room that is an exact match for all the organs you need. Would it be okay to unalive that individual and harvest their organs for your patients?
No, not unless the person consented to it.
Okay.
But even then, I don't know if
Well-
it would be okay.
Would this action maximize overall happiness and well-being in the situation?
To who?
To overall.
I don't know. I don't know if that question makes sense because
So one
To-
person. Go ahead.
to who does it maximize the overall goodness, you know?
To those 5 people who need the one person's organs.
If the guy in the waiting room consented, sure, but just to hold him down and take his organs, then no, it wouldn't be overall good.
So you wouldn't agree that the primary goal of moral action should be to maximize overall happiness or well-being. You would throw in something like consent.
Yeah,
Consent
Yeah.
can override that, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Why?
because I don't think it's good to just hold someone down and take their organs.
Okay. Would you agree that the primary role of law enforcement is to maintain peace and order in a society?
Yeah,
Okay. If a community is in turmoil and violence is imminent, do you believe it's important to take actions that could prevent harm to many, even if those are actions?
like it needs like a lot of context to different scenarios, you know.
Okay.
But
so
yeah,
suppose
sure.
there's-
For the argument, yeah, sure.
Suppose there's a situation where public outrage over a crime is so intense that it threatens to erupt into violence, possibly harming many people. In such a scenario, should measures be taken to calm the public and prevent this violence?
If somebody is acting violent, then yes, I think measures should be taken to stop the violence.
If the only way to prevent this violence and protect the community was to make an arrest, but the real perpetrator couldn't be found in time, would it still be important to act to ensure the greater safety?
Like just to arrest some random person. That way the mob's like, okay, someone was arrested. We can calm down now.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
And another way I could ask that is, imagine that the only way to prevent further violence and ensure public safety was to wrongfully accuse someone known to be innocent, with the understanding that this act would calm the public and prevent greater harm. Would taking such an action be justifiable?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. So when you say that the primary goal of morality is to maximize overall well-being, why are you adding other constraints to this?
I guess I would say because I don't want innocent people to be harmed, and if harming an innocent person is going to be someone innocent being harmed is not good for the overall well-being, because that person is included in the overall, and their well-being is not being accounted for.
Right. But if their suffering caused the overall well-being for a society, would that not be consistent with that earlier view that you espoused?
No, because that person is included in the overall. So I don't think I could say overall, because that person's innocent and they're being suffering.
Wouldn't that create more overall suffering? The outrage of this, like if the community were to get,
I don't necessarily know. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we just have 5-minute closings. So usually a closing is just